The soft golden lights of the restaurant reflected off the polished tables, casting a warm glow that made the whole place feel intimate yet unfamiliar. Ryan sat at a small table near the window, pretending to read the menu but barely seeing the words. He wasn't used to this kind of thing: blind dates, awkward introductions, forced smiles. His best friend Daniel had talked him into it, insisting he needed to get out there, after months of focusing only on work. "She's perfect for you," Daniel had said with a grin. Ryan had only half listened, too polite to refuse. And now, here he was, feeling the kind of nervousness that made his palms damp and his throat dry. He checked his watch again. 5 minutes past the meeting time. Maybe she'd changed her mind, he thought. Maybe this would be one of those stories he could laugh about later, how he got stood up on his first blind date. But before he could entertain the thought much longer, the door opened with a soft chime, and a cold gust of evening air swept in. Ryan looked up. A woman stepped inside, brushing a few strands of hair from her face. She looked around, searching the tables with cautious eyes. She was dressed simply: a soft blue dress, a long coat, a scarf that looked handmade. There was something gentle about her presence, something unassuming yet magnetic. When their eyes met, she smiled nervously, the kind of smile that hinted at both shyness and courage. Ryan stood up quickly, almost knocking his napkin off the table. "Claire?" he asked, his voice slightly uncertain. She nodded, walking toward him. "Ryan," she replied softly. Her voice was calm, though her hands fidgeted slightly as she took off her coat and sat down. The air between them was tentative, full of that familiar first meeting tension. Ryan smiled awkwardly, clearing his throat. "So, Daniel didn't tell me much about you," he said, trying to sound casual. Claire gave a quiet laugh, the corners of her eyes crinkling. "That's probably a good thing. He didn't tell me much about you either, just that you're a good guy." Their waiter came by, offering menus neither of them really needed. As they placed their orders, the nervousness slowly began to melt away. Ryan found himself watching the way she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the way her eyes seemed to hold a story she wasn't quite ready to tell. He noticed, too, that she seemed distracted, her gaze occasionally drifting toward the window as if lost in thought. "So," he said with a light chuckle, "first blind date." She looked at him, her lips curving into a soft smile. "Something like that," she murmured. Her tone was gentle but carried an emotion he couldn't place, maybe sadness, maybe fear. Ryan tilted his head slightly, curious, but decided not to press. They talked about simple things: work, hobbies, mutual friends, yet even as she laughed, he felt a quiet heaviness around her, as though she were holding something back. He couldn't have known then that this night, which began as a favor to a friend, would turn into one of the most unforgettable evenings of his life. The dinner continued with easy laughter and light conversation, but beneath the surface, Ryan could sense something unspoken in Claire's demeanor. She smiled when he joked, but her eyes seemed distant, as if she was somewhere else entirely. He tried to shake the feeling, telling himself maybe she was just shy or nervous. Still, something about her felt different, not like any date he'd ever had, not that he'd had many to compare it with. When their plates were cleared and the waiter offered dessert, Claire hesitated. Her fingers brushed the rim of her water glass, and for the first time, she looked at him directly, her expression serious. "Ryan," she began quietly, her voice trembling slightly, "I need to tell you something." Ryan straightened a little, his earlier confidence slipping. "Sure," he said cautiously. "Is something wrong?" She shook her head but her eyes shimmered, as if holding back tears. "No, nothing's wrong. It's just, this isn't really a date." The words caught him off guard. He blinked, trying to process what she meant. I'm sorry, what? I wasn't supposed to come here to meet you like this," she said, her tone gentle, full of apology. "I'm not here because I'm looking for someone. I'm here because I needed to thank you." A strange silence settled between them. The restaurant noise faded into the background, the laughter and clinking of glasses turning distant. Ryan frowned, his mind scrambling for meaning. "Thank me? For what?" Claire exhaled shakily, her hands clasping together on the table. "You don't remember me, and that's okay. It was years ago. I was just a scared college student walking home one night after a late shift. It was raining hard, freezing cold, and my car had broken down near the highway. She paused, her voice trembling as she went on. A man stopped his truck, offered me his jacket, made sure I got home safe. He didn't ask for anything, not even my name. He just said, "You're safe now," and drove away. Ryan's heart began to pound. He didn't say a word, but flashes of memory flickered through his mind. A dark road, a shivering girl, the sound of rain hitting metal. He remembered stopping his old truck that night, offering his coat, worried she might freeze. He'd thought about her once or twice afterward but never knew what became of her. Claire looked down, tears finally slipping down her cheeks. "That was you, Ryan. I recognized you the moment I walked in." Ryan sat frozen, his throat tight. He didn't know what to say. The realization washed over him. This wasn't a coincidence, and it wasn't a date gone awkward. It was something else entirely. Claire smiled through her tears. "I've wanted to find you for years, to tell you that because of that night, I'm still here. You saved me, more than you'll ever know." Ryan felt something shift deep inside him. What had begun as a simple evening suddenly felt like fate's quiet, miraculous plan. Ryan sat speechless, the world around him fading into a blur of soft lights and muffled voices. He could barely believe what he was hearing. The woman sitting across from him, this gentle, graceful stranger, was the same terrified girl he had once helped on that stormy night years ago. He had almost forgotten the memory until she brought it back with trembling words and tearful eyes. The way she said, "You saved me," echoed in his mind, and he didn't know how to respond. Claire wiped her tears, a small, apologetic smile forming on her face. "I'm sorry if this feels strange. I needed you to know. That night changed everything for me. I was in a really dark place, not just because of the storm. I had been thinking that maybe my life wasn't worth much anymore." Her voice broke, and Ryan's heart clenched. "But then you stopped. You didn't know me, you didn't ask for anything. You just cared. And that one act, it gave me hope again. I decided to keep going because of that." Ryan felt an overwhelming wave of emotion. He leaned forward slightly, his voice quiet but steady. "I didn't do anything special. Anyone would have stopped." Claire shook her head softly. "No, Ryan, not everyone would have. Most people would have just driven past." She smiled faintly. "You were the reason I started believing in good people again. I built my life around that belief." Her words hit him deeply. For years, Ryan had been the kind of man who helped quietly, changing a tire, donating when he could, volunteering without telling anyone. But hearing how one small moment had saved a life made him realize something he had never truly grasped. Kindness doesn't disappear after it's given. It keeps living, growing, rippling through others. They sat in silence for a moment, not the uncomfortable kind but something peaceful, like two souls finally understanding the purpose of their meeting. Ryan looked at her and said softly, "Thank you for finding me. You didn't have to, but I'm glad you did." Claire nodded, her eyes glistening but calm now. "I almost didn't come. I was scared you wouldn't remember me. But when I saw you, I just knew I had to say it. Thank you, for saving a stranger without knowing how much it mattered." Ryan smiled gently. Maybe it wasn't just a favor. Maybe it was meant to happen. She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I think so too." When they finally left the restaurant, the night air was cool and still. Claire pulled her coat tighter, but this time, she didn't shiver. Ryan walked beside her, quiet but comforted by her presence. They stood by the parking lot for a moment, the streetlights casting a golden glow over them. Before leaving, Claire turned to him. "You changed my life once. Tonight, you reminded me why I believed in it." Ryan watched her walk away, his heart full, not of romance, but of something far greater. The quiet realization that sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can circle back years later, to remind you that goodness never fades, it always finds its way home.